Hi everyone. I'm teacher Eric, and I'm a online consultant for ITutor, where I teach Asian people, mostly Chinese and Taiwan, and I've heard people get them from Japan. I don't know if I have yet to get anyone from Japan personally, but that may change. But anyway, today I'm going to do a video called pros and cons of working for iTutor. I've been there about 2 months so far, or almost 2 months. The 14th will be the March 14th will be 2 months for me. So I'm not trying to talk anyone out of working at iTutor, nor am I trying to talk anyone into working at iTutor. I'm just giving some of my views on what I think are the pros and cons. So I'll go pro con because I have four of each. So I guess the biggest pro I'll say at iTutor is the hours. There are a lot of hours you can get at iTutor, and yeah, I mean, most of the time when I say I want to work for hours, I usually get them. That can change. I mean, the clients have up until till an hour to cancel a session. If they cancel it, I guess if they count, my understanding is if they cancel it, before, once that hour before your class starts, then I think you still get paid for it, but chances are they may tell you to teach a class kind of like during that hour that you're, or half hour that you're supposed to have a class. Yeah, there are a lot of hours. So if you do work for iTutor, you should get some hours. I've heard there are other companies that that some people say that might be better than iTutor. I don't know one way or the other. Like I've heard, for example, maybe VIP Kids is a good company, but I've heard it can take a while to get those kinds of hours at some companies. So if you want a lot of hours, yeah, iTutor is probably a good fit for you. A con, I'll say, this is the biggest con, and this is my biggest problem. This is one of the few things that I have against iTutor, and a lot of other consultants agree with me on this. I'd say it's the number one complaint I see on their social media is the rating system. They want you to maintain a certain rating system. Uh, you know, I've heard some of them say it has to be like a 9.5. For me, it's a 9.0. I'm not sure if that's true. If some have to get a 9.5 or not, but for me, they want you to stay at least a 9.0. And most people I see on social media usually say a 9.0. And so yeah, it is a really, so you have to get a lot of so yeah, you have to have a high rating at iTutor. And I mean, for the most part, it can be easy to get. Most people are pretty, rate you pretty high unless you just don't teach well, or you're not using visuals like Manicam, or you're just unenthusiastic or stuff like that. So yeah, I'll get into some other issues and some of my other cons of why you might get a low rating. But yeah, the next pro that I know of, and maybe this just applies to me, but and I'm not going to tell you the exact figures, but the pay I think is pretty good at iTutor. I'll be honest, this is I did teach English in 2008 in Korea, and since I left, I haven't really gotten a job that paid as well. iTutor so far has come pretty close to that. And so yeah, the pay is pretty good at iTutor. At least for me, it was. Maybe other people have different, different experiences with the pay. But again, this pro and con list is based on my experience. Um, one of the cons, and I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but um, maybe I didn't. I don't remember. But uh, if you say you sign up for a class, there's two things that you'll get. You'll get a book class, which I think appears in green, and that means that you have a potential of a scheduled class, and then that can turn into a scheduled class once a client decides they want, they sign up for you. You can get, basically you can get a scheduled class up to an hour before your session. So like let's say right now where I'm at, it's like almost 5 o'clock. So that would mean a client technically has 6 minutes to sign up for a 6 o'clock that I said I was interested in teaching. So, and if I'm teaching, let's say I'm teaching back to backs, and let's say, let's say I teach at 6 o'clock, and and then when I started teaching maybe a class at 8 o'clock, didn't have open. I was teaching back to back. And then all of a sudden I have a class at 8 o'clock, and there's really not time to prepare for it. So that is a con that I've experienced with iTutor. Is just that if you're teaching back to back and there's something in the middle that's open, you can basically you may not have time to prep for it if you're teaching classes back to back, and then all of a sudden someone signs up for it. And also, another thing with that is that you can, like let's say you go to bed at like 10 o'clock, and you say you want to teach at 5 in the morning, and when you go to bed there's nothing there at 5 in the morning. A lot of people I've heard, now I've asked some people before I went into this, so this hasn't happened, but I've heard a lot of new people when they go to bed at 10 o'clock and they don't see a class has been scheduled at 5, maybe they'll sleep in, and when they wake up they find out that someone had signed up for that 5 o'clock, they missed that class, and all their classes were canceled that day because of that, and they had to use one of their absences or something like that. So just be aware that up until an hour before the classes you said you want to teach, you can be signed up for it. So be cautious of that if you do end up working at iTutor. The next pro of working with iTutor is there are good online communities of social support. Some of them are on Facebook. There's also a Discord for the online consultants. I've gotten a lot of help from there. It's sometimes it's a good place to vent frustrations of maybe a client you had or something like that. But it's a pretty it's a pretty good community for the most part. I've only had issues one time, and with when I mentioned something on one of them. And it was something about a language translation where there was a word that I got, and I thought it was they called it something that I guess it was correct in the UK, but I didn't know about that translation in the UK, and I guess some people got really angry at me when I said this is this isn't what it is, it's this thing. And then a lot of people were like, some people were kind of, I'll be honest, they were kind of jerks, and were like, how, I mean, they acted like I was ignorant, or they acted like I'm one of those people that thinks that American English is the only English there is. I'm aware that there are other dialects of English. Some of that comes from the fact that, I know, I've lived mostly in the U.S., all over the U.S., and I also lived a year in Korea teaching English, and so I am aware of those different dialects. So yeah, like I said, there is a good community at iTutor on social media. Another con is, and this can sometimes affect your rating too, is unstable internet connection of the clients. Now, I don't know if this is true, so if someone can back me up, I've heard in China that their internet's not very stable, and 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 I've heard a lot of that's due to what's called the Great Firewall of China, where they a lot of things in China are blocked and hard to get to, or you can't get to at all. And I've heard that maybe it plays into the fact that maybe the client can't stay online too long. So that's another thing to consider. And unfortunately, sometimes if the client has an unstable internet connection, they'll take it out on you and give you a lower rating. I'll give you an example of this. The other day, I had and I find this story kind of interesting. I had a client who was 5, and I'm guessing the mom gave the rating because she was right next to the kid the entire class. And when they rated me, I got a bunch of positive things, but the one thing I got negative was something about an unstable internet connection, and that's not that's not the consultant's fault. It's either something to do with the iTutor server or the client's internet connection, and I really hate the fact that clients tend to take that out on you and give you a lower rating because of that. I'll be honest, something needs to be done about that at iTutor. I hope something is resolved soon, because I really hate when I get, I teach a class, they even leave all these positive reviews, and then I get this client gave me an 8 the other day, and I'm guessing it's due to the unstable internet connection. So a 30-year-old woman 30-plus-year-old woman didn't seem to understand this unstable internet connection isn't my fault. But that same day I had a 10-year-old who also had an unstable connection, and she gave me a 10, and the only comment that she wrote, and it was a negative comment, was unstable internet connection. So I find it interesting that the 10-year-old understood that this isn't my fault, but the 30-plus-year-old woman didn't understand it. The final pro, I guess I'll list the final con that I have before the final positive. That way I'm entering on a positive note. Um, in my experience, I don't like the 45-minute classes. Some people say they like them. I've seen some people that say they like them better than the 25-minute sessions. I don't because I think I've heard you can make more doing the 45-minute sessions, and maybe it's just because I haven't been doing them long enough, and I've only had three. I think three 45-minute sessions. You kind of get in my experience, it's a slightly lower pay than teaching one 25-minute session. So I'm almost spending an hour making about half of what I make in two 25-minute sessions. So that's kind of frustrating. But I've heard if you get nines and tens, that's where you might be, and you have a group of clients, that's where you can get some more money. So yeah, I'm not sure. So far I haven't liked the 45-minute sessions. Yeah, some people like them, some people don't. Personally, so far I don't like them. Maybe that'll change as I teach some more of them. Maybe I'll do an updated thing if I do start liking them. Hey, that if you saw that pro and con video I did, strike that one about 45 minutes. They're actually pretty good. Maybe I'll change my mind after I do them for a while. But right now that's a con for me. And then the biggest plus that I have about iTutor is that there is a lot of live training and pre-recorded trainings that you can watch to help you out. One of the mistakes I made, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, is that I didn't know when I first started about all these live training and pre-recorded sessions. I thought the live trainings were all for the new hires, because they did mention there were two that you were supposed to watch in order to start, and I thought that was the only live ones they held. Turned out I was wrong. There's a lot of them. In fact, I think I've signed up for two of them. Let me see if I can find them. Yeah, it's right here. One of them is interaction with clients, and the other is keys to success. So those are two that I've signed up for today. I've signed up for a few of them so far, a number of them so far, and I will probably keep signing up for some more for a while. And so yeah, those are some pros and cons with working for iTutor. Again, I'm not trying to talk you into iTutor. I'm not trying to talk you out of iTutor. I just want you to be aware of what you may you might be getting yourself into if you decide to work at iTutor. So those are the pros and cons, and I hope you find them helpful. Anyway, again, this is Teacher Eric, and thanks for watching. Bye.